Peace and blessings, family. This is Brother Sharif with the Hour of Power. Go to Hour of Power, Sharif Hamid on YouTube. Subscribe and share the channel so we can continue to lift the mind, body, and soul of our people. It won't be long tonight, but as always, in the name of God, the gracious, the merciful, we give him praise and thanks for his mercy and his goodness to the human family. If all the trees upon the earth were pens to write with, and if all the oceans were ink, and then another 7 oceans to add to its supply, the writing would still not be enough to explain the glory of God, for he's the exalted, all-powerful, all-wise. We confide in no other in our time of need, and we praise no other in our good fortune. He is one. And even if I lived to be 1,000, it would still not be enough to thank God for his many blessings and gifts. We thank God for the Metu Neter. The Metu Neter, oracles, scriptures, and writings that came thousands of years before any organized religion on the continent of Africa. We thank God for Moses in the Torah, Jesus in the Gospel, and Muhammad with the Quran. I greet everyone in words of peace. To my Christian family, praise the Lord. To my Muslim family, assalamu alaikum. To my Hebrew Israelite family, shalom. To my Black conscious family, hotep. And to my people in the streets, what's good to you? It all means peace. So again, this is Brother Sharif with the Hour of Power. Go to Hour of Power, Sharif Hamid on YouTube. Subscribe and share the channel. You know the motto. So we can continue to lift the mind, body, and soul of our people. Won't be long tonight. Didn't give any notice, for this. I was busy ripping and running like I normally do, and trying to take care of my mother. Say some prayers for her. So we had a good program today at Penn Park called Say No to Columbus Day. And many people who work in the school system or for banks, federal government, they were off today for Columbus Day. We only thought it was right to tell our youth the truth about why they were off and not continue to give them false ideas and concepts and conflicting beliefs. I believe it's real conflict in belief to let them continue to celebrate a holiday and a man that goes against the very fiber of what America supposedly stands for. And we all say that we should tell our children the truth, right? That's what we say. We should tell them the truth. But it seems some of us pick and choose what truth we want to give them. So we thought it was only fitting today to tell them the truth about this character named Christopher Columbus. So I want to thank those who came out today. Sister Kiona, Miss Morgan, Miss Tanya Morgan, and her husband, Mr. Morgan. LaQuinn, he's a youth. All the young people there. Sister Trish Whedon, Sister Russie with the sweet treats. She came out. So I want to thank those who took time out of their schedule to come hear what we had to say today. And maybe we can make it grow. Maybe we can take it to another level, because they'll do the same thing next year. And they're going to continue to mislead and misguide our youth. It is up to us to unravel these lies and tell them the truth. So that's what we did today. That's what we attempted to do. We told them the truth about Christopher Columbus, and I was tactful about it because other people had their children there. So I left it up to them to give them the real hardcore truth. I prefer to give it to my children, my boys, hardcore, because there were no parameters and no rules about telling them the lies. So why should I be apprehensive about telling them the truth? As graphic as it is. Yeah, he was a child molester, a pedophile, a flaming homosexual, and a serial killer. And he gets a holiday. But this is what America does, people. If you look at the people that they celebrate, the streets, the universities, they're named after colonizers, slave owners. This is what they do. This is who they celebrate unapologetically. Did you know it's a study out that 90% of the people in America with the last name Washington or Jefferson are black people? Did you know that? Now just think about your travels with the people you've come in contact with, whether it's business, in your community. How many white people have you came across with the last name Washington or Jefferson? The majority, I bet, of the people you come across with the last name Washington or Jefferson are probably black people. Isaiah Washington from that show, the hospital show. Richard Jefferson, the basketball player. Denzel Washington, the actor. That's because we've taken on the last name of these presidents. Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, slave owners and rapists. Yeah. How can 90% of the people in America with the last name Washington or Jefferson be black people, and we only make up 13% of the population? And that number is skewed. I'm going to say it again. We often hear that black people make up 13% of the population in America. That number is skewed. You want to know why? Because that 13%, they're including immigrants, meaning Africans, Haitians, Jamaicans. They're black. There are people, but I'm talking about black people here in America. We don't actually make up 13% of the population because they're including immigrants, Africans, Haitians, Jamaicans. So black people in America, our numbers are really low. And then when you add incarceration and men not knowing who they are, the homicide rates, police brutality, our numbers are very low here in America. But we're going to fix that. It's not what I'm here to talk about today. This is just coming off the top of my head. I'm just speaking to you from my heart. But these are some of the things that we talked about today. And they talked about how we should have an institution where we can continuously give our children the correct information about, our history. I definitely recommend this book. I've been paging through it. It's called What They Never Taught You in Black History Class. A simple, easy read book. What They Never Taught You in Black History Class. It talks about the pyramids, and I just passed it. Or was that Buddha? But this book is a very simple read. It's not difficult to read. And it gives our youth and even our adults who don't know their history very simple history facts that they need to know. Like this man here, Saint Maurice. Do you know his statue is all throughout Greece, and people from Greece have no problem recognizing that one of their most celebrated saints in Greece is a black man named Maurice? Actually, my mother, before I changed my name to Sharif Idris Hamid, my name used to be Eric Maurice Howard. They named me after him. He is a revered saint in Europe. And they have statues and streets named after him. So how come our people don't know him? That's Saint Maurice. Yeah. A revered saint in Europe. His name is Saint Maurice. And that's where I got my name from. My old middle name. Do you know about, it's kind of hard to see, but do you know about the Black Madonna in Rome? At the Vatican? The Black Madonna in the Vatican. The Pope used to pray in front of this. See it right there? The Black Madonna is a painting of Mary and her son Jesus. This painting is still in the Vatican in Rome, and Pope John Paul, who they almost worshipped, he used to pray in front of this painting right there. This is a picture of Mary and Jesus when Jesus was a baby. It's called the Black Madonna. Once again, in European countries, they recognize and have no problem recognizing that Jesus and Mary was black. But then you got some Negroes here in America. Well, Jesus was black. Oh, it doesn't matter what color he was. Well, if it doesn't matter, why have they gone to such extremes to change his identity? Because in Revelations, it clearly says he had hair like lamb's wool and feet like burning brass. So what do you mean it doesn't matter? If it didn't matter, why have they gone to such extremes to make you believe this? Who is this person? This imposter? I could give a whole lecture on that, who he really is. But it's not the Jesus from the Bible that we know. Yes, sister, we need to make a petition to get that Columbus Day removed out of the school system. I just don't know if I have the energy to do it because I'm doing so many things. But no, we know it needs to be done. How about Buddha being black? Has anyone told you that? Who else do you know got cornrows in their hair like that? And once again, in China, they have no problem recognizing that Buddha, the same Buddha that Chinese and millions of people worship in the Buddhist religion, they have no problem recognizing that Buddha was black. Look at the features. It's undeniable. Cornrows, broad nose, thick lips. Buddha was a black man. The major dynasties, some of the first major dynasties in China, like the Qing and the Zhao dynasties, they will tell you in their writings that these were black people with long silk black hair and oily black skin in China. The first dynasties in China were black people. Yeah, look at them cornrows. Who else has hair like that? These are some of the things that we talked about today at Penn Park with Say No to Columbus Day. So I'm seriously thinking that we need a building first. I'm seriously thinking about getting a building and starting a Black History class. As long as it's taught right, I don't have to lead it. As long as the truth is told, I don't have to lead it. But our children and many of the adults, really, that class today was really about the adults was feeling it just as much, if not more, than the children was. Because the reason why our children don't know their history is because the adults don't know their history. Look at this here. Newsweek, this is an old article. The search for the real Adam and Eve. The search for the real Adam and Eve. Now, Dr. Louis Leakey, who is a world-renowned anthropologist, I want you to think on this, especially my Christian family. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to offend you. I would just want you to think. Dr. Louis Leakey, he is a world-renowned anthropologist. He found bones of a black woman in Kenya, and he said these are the oldest human fossils or bones. He found these back in the 1960s in Kenya, which is in Africa. He said these are the oldest found fossils or bones, which really it isn't, because if you keep on digging, he said they were 4 million years old. If you keep on digging, they'll find 10 million years old, 15 million. We're like an infinite circle. But let's go with what Dr. Louis Leakey said back in the 60s. He found bones of a 4-foot humanoid in Kenya back in the 60s. And he named the bones Lucy after the hit song from the group The Beatles. He called those oldest bones of a humankind called Lucy. He said they were the oldest bones. Well, Kenya is here. The Garden of Eden, where they say Adam and Eve is in Iraq along the Euphrates River. Follow me now. I'm going to back it up for you because I don't want you to think I'm trying to trick you. I'm not here to trick you. I'm here to open up your mind. The oldest bones was found in Africa, in Kenya, by Dr. Louis Leakey, a world-renowned anthropologist. 4 million years ago, Africa is here. The Garden of Eden, the famous story in the Bible where they say Adam and Eve was found, at the Garden of Eden is in Iraq, along the Euphrates River. That's all the way on the other side. If the bones that he found were the oldest bones, why didn't he call those bones Adam and Eve? Did you hear what I said? He said the oldest bones that he found, he didn't name them Adam and Eve. He named the bones Lucy after the hit song from the Beatles. That's what Dr. Louis Leakey named them. And again, you got Africa here, and then the Garden of Eden, where they say mankind started with Adam and Eve. They said the search for Adam and Eve. The Garden of Eden is in Iraq along the Euphrates River. How can Adam and Eve be the first human beings? And then you go in Genesis, it says, then they went to a neighboring town. After this whole thing with Cain slewing Abel and all that, it said it was a neighboring town. Well, who was living in the neighboring town if Adam and Eve were the first human beings on this earth? And what about Dr. Louis Leakey's findings of bones going back 4 million years? He didn't call them Adam and Eve. He called them Lucy. And he couldn't have got his geography wrong. He knew he was in Africa, and the Garden of Eden is in Iraq along the Euphrates River. Something ain't right. That's all I'm saying. Do your research. Do your research. Was Adam and Eve truly the first human beings on this earth? And this is from the new Newsweek. It says the search for the first Adam and Eve. The search. But that ain't what Dr. Louis Leakey said. He didn't call them Adam and Eve. He said Lucy. And once again, the Garden of Eden, as we know it from the Bible, is in Iraq. Do your research. It's along the Euphrates River. Iraq and Kenya is nowhere near each other, geography-wise. So why didn't Dr. Louis Leakey say, well, the first bones I found was Adam and Eve? He never said that. He called it something totally different. He said they were Lucy. Our brother Donald Lambert said, I've been to the river when I was in Iraq. Right. It's in Iraq. Iraq and Kenya and Africa is nowhere near each other. Moving along. Like the Arsenio Hall show used to say, something to make you go, Come on, pastors. I challenge any pastor on what I just said. Not to argue with you, because I don't argue. I just bring up information to make us think. That's all. I'm not here to argue with anyone. Do we know that that there were engineers in the first Statue of Liberty was black? See the pictures there? The first Statue of Liberty was supposed to be, well, first of all, it was a Frenchman, and he approached Abraham Lincoln, and he said, since you're supposed to come out with this Emancipation Proclamation, he said, why don't you come up with a colossal statue in New York to represent your supposed freedom of these slaves? See, he knew Abraham Lincoln was full of it. He said, why don't you come out with a colossal statue to represent your supposed freedom of the slaves? And Abraham Lincoln said to this French engineer, he said, well, send me something in the mail about what you're talking about. So the Frenchman, let me see if I can get you his name. I don't want you to think I'm making this up. His name was Bertholdi. That was his name. He was a French engineer named Bertholdi. Bartholdies. He said, send it to me. This is Abraham Lincoln. He sent him this. First, he sent him a black man breaking away from chains. He said, stand it up in New York if you're truly about emancipating your people. Abraham Lincoln sent him a letter back and said, absolutely not. So he sent him another one of a black woman breaking away from chains with the, you know what you're looking at. Abraham Lincoln said, absolutely not. He said, I'll hold it to respect you for your great art, but absolutely not. So guess what Abraham Lincoln did? He came up with what we see now in New York, a white woman holding up the torch with the dress on, which looks exactly like this. what the Frenchman sent him. Again, the Frenchman sent him this first. A black man breaking away from chains and slavery, saying, since you coming out with this Emancipation Proclamation, won't you tell your country's true history? And have a black man breaking away from chains. Abraham Lincoln said, absolutely not. Send me something else. Then he got a black woman breaking away with chains, with the torch up, and Abraham Lincoln said, absolutely not. And he replaced this picture of the black woman with a white woman, and that's what we have with the Statue of Liberty in New York. You can still see these original replicas of the black man and the black woman. Go to the museum in the city of New York on 5th Avenue and 103rd Street. You can still see the original design of the Statue of Liberty on 5th Avenue and 103rd Street. They still got the replicas there. I'm going to show it to you again. This was supposed to be the real Statue of Liberty. First, the Frenchman sent him this, and Abraham Lincoln said, absolutely not. Send me something else. And again, this was the Frenchman's idea. He said, since you coming up with this BS Emancipation Proclamation, won't you come out with a colossal statue? And Abraham Lincoln said, what are you talking about? He said, send it to me in the mail. He sent him this, the black man. Abraham Lincoln said, absolutely not. He said, send me something else. Send him the black woman breaking away from chains with the torch. Abraham Lincoln said, absolutely not. Replaced it with a white woman, which we have in New York right now. Yeah. What else we talked about today? We talked about this BS lie of George Washington being the first president of the United States. And we broke down that. How that is a lie and how tricky they are with their wording. Someone can really trick you with their wording. Yeah, George Washington is the first president, but this is how they get people and how they've been lying to us for years. If I can find the picture. Well, and while I find that, I'll just break it down to you. Well, here it is. Here's your real first president. A black man by the name of John Hanson. He's your first president. You know how they get you with the wording? George Washington is the first president under the Constitution. But what they didn't tell us in history class, hence is why this book is called What They Never Told You or Taught You in Black History Class. What they never taught you was that there were laws before the Constitution called the Articles of Confederation. Those were the laws before the Constitution. So George Washington is the first president under the Constitution. But there were laws in America, started in Maryland, called the Articles of Confederation. There were actually 8 presidents before George Washington. The first was a black man by the name of John Hanson. You want to know what he did? That great seal on the back of your dollar bills, right there, he created that. When George Washington was in war with the British, John Hanson, the black man, he created that seal. He supplied boots and supplies for George Washington. And George Washington said he's a great man. So under the Articles of Confederation, you could only be the president for 1 year. You could only be the president for 1 year. I'm going to show you how wicked these people are. So what they did was they erased 7 presidents out of history who were white, so you wouldn't find out about the one black man who was the president first. I'm about to give you their names. This is the Hour of Power with Brother Sharif. The first president of the United States under the Articles of Confederation, the laws before the Constitution. We learned about these Articles of Confederation in social studies class. These demons just never told you what they meant. So they can erase this black man out of history. Meaning John Hanson. Him. It's right there. A Moor, which means black. John Hanson, under the Articles of Confederation, he was the president from 1781 to 1782. Remember, under the Articles of Confederation, you could only be president for 1 year. And then under the Constitution, they changed it to 4 years, like we have now. And then if you are reelected to a second term. Elias Boutinit of New Jersey was the president from 1782 to 1783, a white man. Thomas Mifflin was the president from 1783 to 1784, a white man. Richard Lee was the president from 1784 to 1785, a white man. John Hancock, one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, when they say, put your John Hancock on that. He was the signer of the Declaration of Independence. He was the president from 1785 to 1786. Nathaniel Gorman was the president from 1786 to 1787. Arthur St. Clair, another white man, was the president from 1787 to 1788. And the last and the eighth president before George Washington, Cyrus Griffin, was the president from 1788 to 1789. There were 8 presidents before George Washington. 7 of them were white. The first one was a black man, but to erase him out of history, they conveniently erased all those other ones out of history so you wouldn't find out about that one black man, John Hanson. That's how much they despise us and want to write us out of history. They conveniently wiped 7 men out of history so you wouldn't learn about one. I'm going to say their names again. John Hanson, he was the first, 1781 to 1782, under the Articles of Confederation. We learned about this in social studies class. But the teachers who were white, they don't even know their history. They only know what they were taught. Or like my brother Muhammad Ali said, you know what I taught you. You don't know everything I know. You know what I taught you. That's what Muhammad Ali used to say about those who he used to spar with. I taught you everything I wanted you to know, not everything I know. That's what our brother Muhammad Ali said. Anyway, John Hanson, 1781 to 1782. Him, under the Articles of Confederation. Elias Boutinit of New Jersey, 1782 to 1783. Thomas Mifflin, 1783 to 1784. These are all white men, other than John Hanson. Richard Lee, 1784 to 1785. John Hancock, the signer of the Declaration of Independence. Why people say, man, put your John Hancock on that. That's because he signed the Declaration of Independence. 1785 to 1786, a white man. Nathaniel Gorman, 1786 to 1787, a white man. Arthur St. Clair, 1787 to 1788, a white man. And then finally, Cyrus Griffin, 1788 to 1789. Then they came out with the Constitution. So George Washington is the first president under the Constitution. But overall, the first president was a black man, and then 7 other white men to follow. And like I told my brothers and sisters that came to the park earlier, if you open up one door of truth, that means you got to open up all the other doors. So the most convenient thing for America to do is to shut all the damn doors of truth. And then they open up imaginary doors so you won't be opened up to truth to other things. Always remember that. If you open up one door to truth, then that means you got to open up other doors. So they will be like, well, all the other 7 presidents were white. Yeah. But if they open up that door, then they're going to have to explain the lie of why did we tell the people, or how do we explain the people that George Washington was the first president? So yeah, 7 of the 8 presidents before him, they were white. But if we open up that door, then we have to open up the dark door that this man was the first president. They don't want America to know that. So they close all the other doors of truth, even though all the other presidents that I just gave you their names were white. If you open up one door, then you have to open up other doors. Very dangerous thing. Very dangerous thing. They're doing it, and they don't even know they're doing it. Right? Now they're talking about, this is a little off topic, but it's on topic, about opening up one door and how it has to open up another door. What do you mean by that, Brother Sharif? What I mean is, now you're starting to hear this thing about letting pedophiles off. Let them off. They even got it in the DSM, which is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. Any therapist, counselor, or psychiatrist uses that book to diagnose people with mental disorders. Now they have came out in the DSM-5 saying pedophilia, it's nothing bad. It's natural for adult males to have attraction to underage males. They're trying to change the name to child attraction. So they're trying to change the whole idea of this pedophilia being a mental disorder. They're saying it's not. They're saying there's nothing wrong with it. That's why you're seeing all this stuff about males going in female bathrooms and judges giving light sentences, if any sentences at all, to pedophiles. But they're doing a dangerous thing, because if you're trying to decriminalize pedophilia, are you following me? If you're trying to decriminalize pedophilia, meaning that it's not a crime, okay, now that means you got to open up the door of saying murder is not a crime. Theft is not a crime. See what I mean? Robbery is not a crime. I'm going to say it again. If you're going to decriminalize pedophilia, now you're opening up the door to decriminalize murder. That's a criminal act. Robbery is a criminal act. Breaking in people's car is a criminal act. So if you decriminalize that, now you're going to have to decriminalize other criminal acts. Are you ready for that, America? If you're going to decriminalize pedophilia, that means you got to decriminalize murder, robbery, whatever. I'm just saying. So back to Black history. If you open up one door of truth, that means you have to open up other doors of truth. What about our great brother, what's his name? I think his name, Arthur Schomburg. How come they don't talk about this Latino brother who had the largest collection of Black history in America? Arthur Schomburg. It's a Schomburg Institute right there in New York. No one talks about him. You want to know why? Because then they would have to explain the Latino and African connection. See what I mean? Arthur Schomburg, who had Latino and African descent and background, he had the largest collection of African American history in America. He was connected to the Harlem Renaissance in New York. Yeah, but if they open up that door, then they'll have to start talking about Roberto Clemente, African and Latino background. Then they have to start explaining Fantasia, African and Latino background. Then they have to start explaining Carmelo Anthony. Listen to his name, Carmelo Anthony, African and Latino background. Right? How about Maxwell? A little something, something. They'll have to explain the something, something about his Caribbean and African background. Huh? And how about Mariah Carey? Huh? I can go on and on and on. Then they have to start explaining that. So instead of explaining that, they just shut the damn door on it all. And just make you think Carmelo just got that name for nothing. Fantasia just got that name for nothing. She came out with a song, said the truth is. What truth was she talking about? How about Mariah Carey's father being from Cuban descent, and Maxwell, and Roberto Clemente, and on and on and on. But look up that brother, Arthur Schomburg, the largest has the largest collection of African American arts and artifacts in America. And they got a Schomburg Institute right there in America. No one talks about him. Very strange. So these are some of the things that we talked about today at the park. But look this up. The first Black president. Look up Buddha being black with his thick lips and his broad nose, and how people in China have no problem recognize Buddha as being a black man with his cornrows. Who else has cornrows like that? And look up the Black Madonna. How the Pope, whoever's in there now, in the basement of the Vatican, the basement of the Vatican, they pray to the Black Madonna, a picture of a jet black Mary and a jet black Jesus. That Pope John Paul that everyone was worshiping when he passed away, he religiously every morning prayed in front of the Black Madonna in the basement of the Vatican. Look at that. Who else looks like that? This is Buddha now. Look at them cornrows and broad nose and thick lips. Who else? How can that happen, Brother Sharif? That's because the first 3 dynasties in China was black. Google the Grimaldi race. Grimaldi. The Grimaldi race. The first people in Europe. The first indigenous people in Europe was black. The Grimaldi race. Grimaldi. The Grimaldi race. The Cro-Magnon man, or the white man, only goes back 20,000 years. But the Grimaldi race, who came from Africa through the Gibraltar Strait and walked straight into Europe and started their own race, they were the first people in Europe. These people have no origin. They're indigenous to nowhere. Look up Easter Island, a little island that just sits in the middle of the water, and how they have African statues there. And then Europeans came in there and just started ravaging the whole island. Look up Easter Island. Back in the 1800s, how we were there first. And it's African statues on that island. They may still be there if they ain't stole them like they steal everything else. Look up Easter Island, just like the holiday Easter. I just want you to Google that. How these people were there, living peacefully on this island. It's just a small dot if you look it up on a map, on a global map. Easter Island, how they had colossal statues there. Back in the 1800s, they were there minding their own business. And they said, where these people come from? They've been there. They were Africans. Look up the first Africans or the first people of Hawaii and how dark those people was. I said the first people of Hawaii were black. Jet black people on the island of Hawaii. If our good brother Donald Lambert is still online, I bet you he's been there. I bet you he's been there, and how those first people of Hawaii, they were black people. How about Alaska? But let's go back to the Grimaldi race. The first Europeans were black. Yes, they were. And because of the cold temperature there, eventually their skin turned white. They got bones of a 55-year-old woman and a 17-year-old boy in the Monticello Museum in Europe. And they found that they were from the Grimaldi race. The Monticello Museum in Europe, it proves that the first people of Europe were black and they were from the Grimaldi race. Grimaldi, the Grimaldi race. Google it. They were the first indigenous people in Europe. And they got the nerve to tell people, go back home. Well, where's your home? It's not Europe. It certainly ain't Africa. It's not China. Because I already told you the first 3 dynasties in China were black. Right there. Look at Buddha. Learn your history. This is some of the beginning steps and tools to bring confidence back into our youth. So they don't think they got to be like these rappers that are telling them to kill themselves, to bear arms. Remember that song that got 10 million hits on YouTube a couple years ago? Riding Around with My Nina. Remember that song? Riding Around with My Nina, smoking on Keisha. So right there, they're telling them to bear arms and to smoke drugs. And this Negro got 10 million hits on YouTube. I forget his name. Cash Out, that was his name. Cash Out. But you can't Google him if you get in any trouble to bail you out. His name was Cash Out. But if you follow his ignorant ass talking about riding around with my Nina, Nina meaning a 9mm pistol, smoking on Keisha, which is drugs. If you do that, his name was Cash Out. But if you do that and get caught by the police, he's nowhere to bail you out. So these are the beginning solutions to bring confidence to our youth and our people, to teach them who they are. Now, I don't mean we're going to be stuck 10,000 years ago. We have a systematic way and a creative and articulate way to bring the pyramids. Look at the pyramids that we built. We can bring it to life right now to let our youth know that you don't have to be stuck 10,000 years ago, but these are things that we can be proud of. Like the first Statue of Liberty being black. It was supposed to be black. And the first dynasties in China were black. The first people in Europe were black. The Grimaldi race and all the other contributions that we have made. These are the beginning tools and solutions to bring about confidence and love and understanding with our youth. Because remember, you discard what you don't value, just like yesterday's garbage. You get rid of that garbage because you see no value in it. So you just throw it away. Here, garbage man, come get this. I don't need this anymore. That's where our youth are now. They are discarding which they don't see no value in. They don't see no value in themselves because you wouldn't hurt your brother if you loved yourself. So it's easy for them to pop up at Turkey Hill on October the 7th and just blast someone. Now we found out that was a white man that did that. That's the article that my sister provided for us. But you know what I'm saying. The brothers just roll up on each other and they just bam, they just blast someone like they're nothing because they see no value in themselves and each other. So they discard them easily like yesterday's garbage. I propose this is one of the solutions to that problem by teaching them their true history. This was supposed to be the real Statue of Liberty, the real first Statue of Liberty. But Abraham Lincoln saw different, and he replaced it with the white lady. Yeah. We've been lied to, tricked, flim-flam, bamboozled, run amok, lied to, tricked. The whole nine. It is up to us to tell our youth their history. They're having too much fun. Why would they turn back now? And how would they explain it? How would they explain it? Like Malcolm said, flim-flam, tricked, bamboozled, run amok, the whole nine. We've been lied to. This is Brother Sharif with the Hour of Power. Go to Hour of Power, Sharif Hamid on YouTube. Subscribe and share. And if you're bold enough, hit the share button with this message tonight. If you're bold enough, if you're not worried about who's going to say, oh, you mean you cool with that Brother Sharif? He's crazy. He hates white people. No, I hate lies. Hate is wasted energy. And I don't waste energy. I don't waste energy. It's wasted energy. I hate the lies that they have told our youth. That's what I hate. So if you're bold enough to hit the share button, hit the share button and say, hey, I think what this brother said tonight has some value in it. Look at it. But if you're worried about who may see it on your page, I understand. In Islam, we're taught not to make it difficult for anyone. We are taught not to make it difficult for anyone. So if you are fearful to share this message, I still love you. I still love you. I still love you. We're not supposed to make it difficult for anyone. We're taught to make it easy for people. Make it easy for people. I said, if you're bold enough to share this message, share it. This is still Women's Month. I'm still keeping my word. Tune in maybe tomorrow night and we will go on and I will do He Saw the Best in Me When Everyone Else Saw the Worst in Me, Part 2. Maybe tomorrow night. If not tomorrow night, tune in Wednesday night, Channel 16, Local Access TV here in PA. Streaming live on Facebook, we will do our first Make Me Over show where we already have went into the hood and got two young men, and we're going to make them over from head to toe. We're going to lift their mind, body, and soul right in front of you. We're going to transform two young men right in front of you. Wednesday, October the 10th at 8 p.m. on Channel 16 Local Access TV, streaming live on Facebook. We're going to transform two young men right in front of you. And then we're going to keep pouring love, knowledge, and understanding into them. I leave you in peace as I came. Assalamu alaikum.